Hi everyone, my name is Benjamin Chu, and I'm from iPass Labs. Today, our topic is PCIe Express Generation 6. I will introduce the PCIe Gen 6 specifications, discuss the key test items, and explain the main difference between PCIe Gen 4, 5, and Gen 6. Today's topic is divided into two main parts. The first part focuses on the differences and specifications across PCIe generations. We will introduce these using the PCIe base spec as our reference. The second part covers PCIe Gen 6 transmitter test items, along with the testing challenges and corresponding solutions. This slide shows the differences in the PCIe Gen 4 to Gen 6 base specification. First, looking at the data rate, it is obvious that Gen 5 has double the data rate of Gen 4. However, the main difference between Gen 5 and Gen 6 is the signaling method. Gen 5 uses NRZ, while Gen 6 uses PAM4. Next, in terms of adding card channel loss, we can see that both Gen 5 and Gen 6 operate at 16 GHz frequency point. When we look at the I height and the I width, the requirements are different between PAM4 and NRZ. Because of the different modulation schemes, the I height and I width specifications are not the same. As a result, even though Gen 5 and Gen 6 operate at the same frequency, the test requirements are different. At the same time, there are some test items that remain the same across different generations. This section discusses the PCIe Gen 6 fixture. Although PCIe Gen 5 and Gen 6 use the same PCB material, the fixtures used for Gen 6 are mostly different from those used for Gen 5. In general, Gen 5 fixtures cannot be directly used for Gen 6 testing. However, the ISI board can be continued and shared between Gen 5 and Gen 6. This slide explains the difference between the eyes of PAM4 and NRZ signals. As you can see, a PAM4 signal has 3 eyes, while an NRZ signal only has 1. This is because PAM4 divides the amplitude into 4 levels, which results in a 3 out of 1 reduction in eye height and about a 33% of unit interval loss due to the level transitions. From the graph shown earlier, you can clearly see the specifications of PAM4 eye height and eye width are roughly 1/3 of those for NRZ signals. This slide mainly compares the differences in transmitter test items between PCIe Gen 5 and Gen 6. We can see that many test items from Gen 5 are still present in Gen 6, such as PWJ, clock jitter, and return loss related items. However, since PCIe Gen 6 adopts PAM4 signaling, there are additional transmitter test items. One example is SNDR, which is mainly applied to add-in card testing. Most importantly, RLM is introduced in Gen 6 because PAM4 produced 3 eyes. It is critical to maintain consistent proportions among the 3 eyes. Therefore, RLM is measured to ensure the eye levels remain balanced. This slide mainly introduced the basic concept of PCIe Gen 6 presets. As we can see, PCIe Gen 6 presets are different from those used before Gen 5. Starting from Gen 6, the presets are defined as Q0 to Q10 instead of P0 to P10. Before Gen 6, PCIe up to Gen 5 used P4 as a reference preset. However, starting from Gen 6, Q0 becomes the reference preset. For Q0 to Q10, due to the gain differences between presets, most signal quality tests currently uses Q5, 8, and Q9. There are also some test items that must be measured using Q0 only, which we will introduce in the following sections. This slide mainly shows the PCIe Gen 6 connection diagrams. The diagram on the left illustrates the adding card configuration, while the diagram on the right shows the system configuration. Each configuration has its own loss requirements, which are defined separately for adding card and system environments. This slide mainly focuses on the PCIe Gen 6 system transmitter test items. As mentioned earlier, for presets Q0 to Q10, no CTLE or DFE is applied during these measurements. For signal quality testing, any preset from Q0 to Q10 can be selected. In practice, we typically choose the recommended presets Q5, 8, and Q9 to check whether the eye remains open. For the RLM test, only Q0 is allowed, and again, CTLE and DFE must not be enabled for compensation. Finally, a clock jitter test is also included as part of the system transmitter test items. This slide focuses on the PCIe Gen 6 add-in card transmitter test items. Similar to the system side test, we have preset, signal quality, and RLM tests. But add-in card testing also includes a new SNDR test. For SNDR, just like RLM, only Q0 is allowed, and CTLE and DFE must not be applied during the measurement. Other test items such as UTJ, UD, RJ, etc. were already present in Gen 5, and PLL testing is also included in Gen 6. For PLL analysis, we recommend using Q5 or Q7 to evaluate the clock performance. That's all for today's PCIe Gen 6 introduction video. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment, email us at iPassLabs, or give us a call. We'll share more in-depth Gen 6 content in upcoming videos, so stay tuned for more explanations and discussions. And make sure you don't miss any of our videos. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks everyone for watching.